Hello and welcome back to the Radio Caroline YouTube channel, where today we have our first video of the Caroline Legend Interviews series. Now, I'm Josh Holmes-Bright, but I'm not the legend. In fact, the legend is here with me. It's, well, one of the longest serving Caroline DJs, I think, as we just mentioned before. Not the oldest, one of the most experienced is what we've decided to say. It's Emperor Rosko, of course. Thank you very much for joining us, Rosko.
Hello, young man. It was a diplomatic introduction, if I've ever
Oh,
had.
well. Thank you for being here. We do appreciate it on the YouTube channel as well.
This modern stuff, I'm amazed. Here we are
Incredible.
talking your little screen, and it's going to go out somewhere in the great cyber world. And
Absolutely. Yeah. As if you
cool.
weren't famous enough, you're taking over the YouTube industry as well.
Modesty forbids me from bragging at this point.
There we go. There we go. We'll go straight into the questions then, if we're not going to build you up to be this superstar. So obviously the best place to start is the beginning of your career, really. So how did you get into becoming a DJ? I think is the easiest way of asking that.
I don't know. I guess it started under the bed covers, listening to the radio when I was very, very young and being fascinated by this communication. And of course, you add the music to it. I love music and I love that. And the whole thing kind of all came together as the career choice, because movie stars don't do that. And lawyers and doctors don't do that. So you had to be a DJ. And back in those days where we had kind of little flat discs of vinyl to communicate, one had to collect 45s, as we say. And I started in school by making people dance at the school dances with 45s. And from there I was in the military. And if you saw the movie Good Morning Vietnam, that type of thing, I was a military DJ in the 60s. South China Sea. And then from there, I went to DJ school to polish my very unskillful approach to radio. I was only copying my friends.
Sure.
And I went to school, and while I was at the school, my parents had a connection in France with Barclay Records. So Barclay Records said, we'll bring him over. We need a producer. We need a young producer. So I was brought over as a record producer for the independent label. And I, to put it bluntly, sucked as a producer. I just don't, I'm tone deaf when it comes to singing. I can't tell if you're, a little sharp or a little flat. I don't hear that. I just hear melodies, I hear rhythm. And Mr. Barkley said to me after about 6 months, he said, "This is not cutting it, Emp." I wasn't at the time, but he said, "I understand you were a DJ." And I said, "Yeah, I have DJ experience." He said, "Well, we have, back in those days, you bought time on radio." I think they do that on Caroline. Yes, we did. We did on Caroline. We sold time to the religious sect that would go on at night, for 4 hours and praise Jesus. So I took over the radio station production for the company, and suddenly things all gelled for them. I selected the music out of what they wanted promoted, and I would package it up and send it out to the radio stations. He had 3 or 4 stations that he paid lots of money to have his product played on. And at the end of about another 3 or 4 months, suddenly everything was really good, because he said, "Guess what? They like it." I said, "Well, why wouldn't they?" He said, "Try and get you onto a bigger station here in France." So I went on to Europe #1, which was the biggest, big 1,000,000-watt AM station.
Right.
I did Sundays on their Salut les Copains, which was a youthful show for kids. And that went down pretty well. And whilst I was doing that, I started doing hosting duties at the theater, and all the American acts and the English acts would come over, i.e., Beatles, Stones, and so on.
Yeah.
I would introduce them on stage, so another connection was made. And when the manager of Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs was there, he said, "Oh, I'm good friends with this guy called Ronan O'Reilly." He said, "Why don't you make me a tape and I'll take it back?" So I thought, well, why not?
Yeah. Why
Because
not?
I was doing all this in French at the time, so it was I could not be as flexible as in English. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way. And about another couple months went by, and I got this phone call from Ronan O'Reilly. Well, actually, from Henry, who said, "I spoke to Ronan. He wants you on the ship immediately, blah, blah, blah." So I said, "Well, listen, immediate doesn't work in my life. I have to give notice. I have to do this, I have to do that." So we set a time. About a month later, I arrived on the ship. And the rest was history.
Yeah. Yeah. When was that? What year did you join Caroline? If you can remember.
Yeah, it would have been 65, I think.
65, so a year after it started.
Yeah, no.
More or less.
Can I jump in? Correct.
My lawyer has an issue.
It was May 66.
May 66?
Oh, yeah, right.
More or less. You were close. You were close.
And I forgot I had a year in Paris.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Doing thing.
So you had your tape sent to Ronan, and he immediately went, "We want him. We want him. Get him out as soon as you can.
Get your act in gear." Did I? I guess I didn't have. I thought I brought my coffee. Okay, carry on, sir.
Fair enough. No. What did you, or how did you tell your parents, I suppose? Not what did you say to them, but how did you tell them? Was it an easy thing to say? Because I suppose back then when pirate radio was just becoming a big thing, so a year or two after, did that go down well?
I'll tell you what went down. Telling them that I was in the military and going to Vietnam was far more shocking to them than me saying I'm going to go on a pirate station.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
I was. They'd already sent me to Europe, so going on to the pirates was not a big deal at that point. From there, anyway, my dad wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor. So he was already past disappointed the fact that I'm playing rock and roll records. That to him was, he said, but he did say to me, he said, "Whatever you're going to do, make sure you do it well." So that was.
Yeah, that's good advice. Were they big music fans, your parents? Did they themselves like music?
Well, my dad was a movie producer, so he made movies.
Okay.
Did a lot of the Elvis Presley movies.
Oh, wow.
Movies that you won't know, you're far too young.
Well,
but if you stay up late and you see them on the late channel, you might see a few of them.
That's true.
Other than that, they were just Lena Horne and Frank Sinatra people. That was rock and roll was a whole different kettle of fish. I mean, he asked me one day, who are these Beatles people? That gives you a rough idea.
It's a fair question. Yeah, it's a fair question. What about you growing up, obviously in the sort of late 50s, 60s, when rock and roll was becoming a big thing, this sort of rebellious stage? What kind of music were you fascinated by that made you think, yeah, I want to play that for a living?
The first rock and roll record I heard was Rock Around the Clock by Bill Haley, and I was sold.
Classic, yeah.
From that moment on, there was no other music until soul music took over. And then later on in years, country music. So you go through stages, I guess, and you just add to your repertoire, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now I do a country show, Coast to Coast Country, which I syndicate out. And I also do the LA Connection. And then, of course, the shows that we cut for Caroline.
Of course, yeah, the North ones, yeah. So choosing a name in the 60s, obviously back then you couldn't use your real name. It was slightly illegal, and it's probably a silly idea to give out your real name or anything like that. So how did you come up with Emperor Rosko?
It was kind of interesting. I was always amazed. I thought, if they really want to stop these guys, when we'd come back to the ship on the on the shuttle, that's when they should grab us.
Yeah.
I mean, my original radio name was Mike Prescott,
Okay.
and then I was Le Président in France, Roscoe, and
Nice.
then you cannot be a president if you're in England.
That's
me,
true. That's
So I
true.
became emperor, which is really because I couldn't be prime minister Roscoe. That sounds kind of weird.
That would have been a
So,
bit silly, yeah.
and so that name kind of stuck. And in France, I'm still the president, but I even tried going Roscoe alone, but that didn't seem to have the same allure in the minds of most people.
No, I think Emperor really sells it, doesn't it? That really gets it across, yeah. Another thing from the 60s, again, something you wouldn't really get on radio these days, I don't think. Is it true you had a bird in the studio with you at some point? I read this somewhere.
I mean, were we allowed to have birds on the ship? I don't. Well, I guess we had occasional birds that come in on the sailboats. You mean?
Right.
Oh, you mean Alfie?
That's the one, yeah. Alfie.
Alfie, the minor bird.
That's the one I'm thinking of. That's what I've read about, yeah.
Sneaky on me there. No, Alfie, I thought, just an idea. I thought birds talk, so wouldn't that be fun to have a bird in to work, to throw one-liners at me, if you will.
Yeah.
And that was great until I trusted the crew when I would go ashore for a week and they would play him endless tapes with curse words.
Brilliant.
And then wait for the bird to be on the show and say something nasty.
Of course, yeah. Did they ever catch you out?
Cover up for him.
Right, yeah.
I'd, go F, and that's a French seal, if I remember correctly.
It's a good save. It's good. You see, that French you learned before came in handy. Got you out of trouble.
It did indeed. So that was it. That was I was on the ship for about a year, and then Ronan said, "I'm sending you to France. I'm now in partnership with Radio Luxembourg over there, which was French Radio Luxembourg."
Right.
And they were very similar. They were fighting with Europe #1, my early station, except they were very boring, and all they did was talk. And if they played any music at all, it was really middle of the road, fall asleep music. And Jean Prouvost got the main interest in the radio station, and he brought Ronan in as a consultant, who brought me in as a consultant.
Right.
I said, guys, first of all, I told Ronan, I said, I don't want to go back to France. I'm making 50 quid a week here, all the expenses paid.
Yeah.
What more? Back in those days, that was good money.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Hey, you're lucky to buy a Starbucks with it. But he said, no, we're going to up your salary and pay all your expenses. I said, Ronan. He said, I'll give you 500 quid a week. I said, Ronan, how fast can I get there? So that was my new salary, and my new job was to shake up Radio Luxembourg.
Mm-hmm.
And they were not kidding. They said, we'll spare no expense. And I got hold of my good buddy there, and the two of us put our heads together, and we came up with minimum de blah blah, maximum de musique.
Right. Okay.
The slogan. And I said, you have to build me a studio, because I'm not having an engineer play my records. He wouldn't be able to keep up with me anyway. With all the stuff I do. They didn't even know back then what a cartridge machine was.
Really?
Thing. Because by now that's already old. You don't maybe don't even know what a spot master was. Do you?
No, I can't lie. No.
I mean, the radio business flourished on cartridges. There were boxes like an 8-track tape, but you only had up to a minute or two of time, and you just slam this in the machine, and it was ready to go. So I mean, I need three of those. I need a couple. I need turntables. Da, 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 da. We went on and on and on, and it's just. I was in heaven. I mean, you're eating in Paris. Everything's paid for. You're making a lot of money.
Living the dream.
And of course, the French are going insane. Who is this crazy person here? Disrupting our lives. And they were going to call a strike.
Oh, really?
And all the engineers in France were going to come out because I didn't want an engineer.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to play my own music. It was the first self-operation going.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, major negotiations. See, Jean Prouvost owned all the big press newspapers and Paris Match and magazines and things. So he negotiated with him through Arnold de Contade, his right-hand man. And we decided that they could put an engineer in the studio with us if he promised not to say anything and do anything.
Right. That's fair. That's a fair offer.
He would sit there and keep an eye on things.
Well, that's
young
good.
kid, about like you, actually. You remind me a little bit. And he just sat there with his mouth open. Because, yeah, I mean, all this equipment was new to them.
Yeah.
And here's the DJ playing records and machines and cartridge and bang, boom, buff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we launched Minimum de Blabla, Maximum de Musique with the show Minimax in France. We went to Texas and took 8 singers with us.
All right. Okay.
To Pam's Jingles, which you may or may not know. Once again, it's old school.
I do.
And we used their studios, their tracks, and then my buddy and I, we wrote all the jingles in French. And they sang them in French. So we had like 101 jingles, which was, to this day, are legend. People have collections of them. They're just, I still listen to them for the fun of it. I mean, well, you can't go wrong with Pam's because it's a formatted thing.
Yeah.
And here we go on the air with all these jingles. And my format was, every other record would be French, and there would be no old French, only young French. So we had American English pop, and off we went. And within I think 3 or 4 months, we were the number one show.
Wow.
The rest of the station, of course, we didn't touch at that point because it was kind of a trial thing, and it was working really good.
Yeah.
I mean, they gave us an entire train in France, a choo-choo.
Wow.
And said, take this train and do the show live from all over France. So we did that.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And whilst all this was going on, some guy showed up in a little kind of tweed suit, I remember. Very British. And he came one day and, hey, I say, you're Mr. Rosko. You know, I said, yeah. He said, my name is Derek Chinnery. I'm a producer at the BBC.
Oh, wow.
Said, we want you. We're launching something called Radio 1, and we would like you to do the noon show. So we hummed and we hawed, and the princely sum of, I think, 27 quid was mentioned.
All right.
Right.
That's not bad, then. Now,
Not when you're making 500 a week and all expenses.
Yeah, of course. I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit of a step down.
But once again, I can return back to English because I invented franglais, they called it over there, because I would make up words as I go.
All right. Okay.
Because I'm going so fast. If I couldn't think of it, I would throw it. I invented.
Yeah.
And so I guess my language skills became pretty ruptured. He said, okay. So Derek Chinnery later became the big honcho
Of
the big
course.
cook
Yeah.
at Radio One. But back in those days, he was just a producer.
Right. Okay.
They launched Radio One sometime in '68, I think.
I think so.
Someday.
Sounds
67.
about right.
'67. All right.
There you go. Yeah.
I
1 year
expert-
out again. That's
first-
fine. We'll let you off. So you were doing your shows for Radio One from France then?
Back in those days. Well, I was also on Caroline on tape, Luxembourg on tape as well. English Luxembourg were taking some shows, and Radio One. And the first show that went on Radio One, I got a lot of press because they said the newsman came on after one of my little ruptured speeches and announced, and now the news in English, which the reporters all just they went crazy with that one there.
Yeah.
But see, back in those days, they had 27 disc jockeys off the station. Some would do a half hour, some would do an hour, some would do every other week.
Right.
It was a whole different world. But the signal, my God, here we were national with a clean signal,
Yeah.
which very unpiratey, if you will, and unheard of from a English Luxembourg.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They came bouncing in on depending on the weather.
Right.
So that was Radio One, and we once again did well. And after about a year, the French in May of '68 had a major, they called it a strike. The whole country shut down. And I was told by this radio station I was not to play any excitable music because the public was restless.
Right. Okay.
The students were rioting. And I opened the show with Dancing in the Street, and that was enough to get me the sack
Oh, right. Okay.
by Martha and the Vandellas.
And
And I
it's a
said,
good song. It's a good
hey,
song.
for all my listeners out there that are, in the street.
Fair
And
enough. Yeah.
So I was about ready to get out of that country anyway. It was not fun when you can't buy bread, everything's closed. So a buddy and I, we got in our cars and we managed to, siphon gas here and there and find a few places that were open. And we cruised down into the south of France, into Italy, where there was no strike, and back over to England. And I showed up and said, I'm here to do it in person. They said, great, welcome aboard.
Oh, wow.
And that started the Rosko thing, the Emperor in England.
Yeah. That's incredible. Now, a lot of the pirate stuff was documented, or mainly on Caroline, in a more recent film, 2009, I think it was, The Boat That Rocked. Did you know about this film at all? Like when it was being produced, or was it when it was released you found out about this, that your sort of stories were going to be told through cinema?
Yeah, I found out when it was released. They never came to me for any info. See, Johnny Walker was there. They went to him for information.
Oh, right. Okay.
How things went. So they got his opinion and his slant.
Hmm.
Then, of course, he turned it into a comedy anyway. So,
Yeah.
but I know that the two main characters in there was my personality split into two ways.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
American, and then the other, because I was the one who was doing all the sexual innuendos on air.
Yeah.
And known as the Playboy guy. And of course, I was the only American at the time. So that was all me. And I was delighted to be in it in that respect.
Yes. How did you feel about the way you were portrayed in the film? Were you happy with it? Were you a bit critical?
Yeah. Well, I would have preferred the two guys be combined into one.
Yeah.
Would have been a little more truthful.
Yeah,
But,
of course.
The sheer fact that the pirates were feted and saluted was already a plus. And the fact that they had lesbian cooks on the ship, well, that's pushing things a little bit far.
Yeah.
There were no the ship at all. But they did get John Peel right with the the heavyweight albums and all that thing. And then the Carnaby Street thing was a bit stupid because we didn't dancing in Carnaby Street.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But someday you'll make a real movie.
Well, yeah, hopefully, yeah. But I mean, it has done quite a lot of justice. I think the film it's brought quite a younger audience to Caroline.
Josh, it's starting with you.
Yeah. Well. Don't put the pressure on me.
Look, we are making a movie.
Yeah, I suppose so. Me and you. That's all we need. Me and you, a couple of camera guys, and a microphone. That's all we need.
Get rid of my bumps and bruises, and we'll be going.
Next year maybe we'll get that out in cinemas. Yeah. Now you've won quite a few awards over time. I know we said at the start we weren't going to make you sound like this superstar, but it'd be silly not to, at least a little bit. You've won like Lifetime Achievement Awards. You were inducted into the Radio Academy Hall of Fame, all sorts of stuff. And you've got one there. Look at that, a nice gold disc. I thought you weren't rubbing it in. You said you weren't gonna call yourself a superstar. Yeah.
This is for the biggest slob on radio, but that's
no, right. Okay, yeah, I'll be coming for that soon. I'll be coming for that one. So I done the math. 63 years your career, maybe even more than that. I think 63. And I mean,
not counting a long time ago.
Sorry. Yeah, it's a hard question, I know, but does it feel like you've achieved a lot when you look back at the 63 years or whatever? Do you think I've done pretty well for myself? I'm happy with that.
I'm just happy I can still talk.
Yeah.
People still want to listen.
Yeah.
I don't think DJs are ever going to be on the great ladder of history's greatest moments. We're kind of down there having fun and entertaining people at our level.
Absolutely.
And where would we be without music and records? We'd be comedians, I guess.
Well,
so it's rather special, but I have no complaints. I think I would have liked the BBC to maybe when I left to take my show, which they wouldn't do for some reason. We don't take tape shows,
Yeah.
Well, we know that's a load of rubbish. But all the new up and coming independent stations have taken the show, so we're on quite a few of those, and we're happy.
Absolutely, yeah. And as you say, it's all about having fun. Hopefully, something's fallen off the shelf there. One of your many awards that you've pulled down. Of course,
your voice thundered through the studio.
Sorry.
Can I show you my horn?
You can show me your horn, as long as it's not as it's not one of your innuendos.
Have you ever seen one this big in your life?
I don't think I have.
That is the famous one. They all ask that one. And you are getting a world exclusive.
There we go. Only on the official Radio Caroline YouTube channel. There you go.
There you go.
Look at that. Anyway, we've been thrown off guard by your awards. You see, you are a superstar after all. But we're of course having fun with the Caroline North weekends. You're doing the shows you started earlier this year. What was it like when you were asked to return to Radio Caroline? What did you think?
I was in shock.
Yeah.
Because
surprised.
Well, I don't know. I thought I've been around. They always call me up when they want to do a fundraiser.
Yeah.
But as far as going on all the time, nobody ever really chased me that hard. So it's been a while. And then this young attorney who's involved with the station obviously had better taste than some others.
Right.
And
okay.
You must do this. And so here we are.
Yeah, perfect. Would you say the listeners have welcomed you back with open arms? Because I think the response has been fantastic. How have you felt?
I don't know. I'm a little leery of 6 in the morning. And,
right. Okay.
How many people are out there at 6 in the morning? So I'm certainly optimistic, and it's nice to hear from fans.
Absolutely.
I don't know what is see. Breakfast is the biggest show here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Breakfast show is the biggest one. So, but I've never done breakfast before as a regular thing. So I mean, I've done the odd one here and there. So I'm going to wait for the bosses to tell me how's it going.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure you'll see in the comments of the video as well. I'm sure everyone will tell you how much they love you.
Oh,
Well,
as long as they don't comment about porn.
That was a nice addition. I like that. But yeah, hopefully we do see you stick around on North for a little bit longer. I do hope we do. It's been a pleasure to chat to you. Thank you for coming on, and hopefully we can well keep you around for a while and have you back on board soon, maybe.
All right, you watch the speeding.
Of course, yes, yeah. I've heard about that. You don't think I'm a very good driver then, no? Just because I'm young.
I only go by the you know, the rumors, but you know as well as I do that hitting the floor is always difficult. I mean, the pedal, so you got to. Yes.
That was easy.
You've got the sound effects ready. You were ready for that.
How'd you like that?